Hey, Right Riders, Keith Wheeler here, back with another video for you. And tell me if this sounds familiar. You've published a book or maybe multiple books and you're not getting any sales. Or maybe you're getting sales, but not as much as you think you should based on the niche that you're in. Does that sound familiar? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 reasons why your book might not be selling and what you can do to fix it. And if you stick around to the end, I'm actually going to share with you a bonus tip that is something that you probably think is deterring you from getting sales, and it's probably not as big of an issue as you think. So make sure you stick around to the end to get that bonus tip. Now, before I get started, let me just make it clear that it doesn't matter if you've published one book or you've published thousands. It doesn't matter your experience level. Everybody can fall victim to these 10 reasons. But you're in luck because, like I said, I'm going to share with you how you can fix these, whether your book has been out for years or you just published it. And the best news is that knowing these 10 reasons now ahead of time can really help you to make sure that you set your book up for success right out of the gate going forward. Now I'm gonna break this up into two specific sections. The first one is visibility, like why people aren't finding your book. And then the second part is gonna be they found your book and why they're not buying it. So reason number one is that you went by a publish and pray mentality, meaning you published your book, and that's it. You didn't do any marketing, any promotion, or anything like that. The days where publish and pray work are in the past. I mean, you might be lucky enough to get in a niche, or if you're a well-known enough brand in your niche that you can just publish and pray. But if you're just starting out, chances are you're going to need to do some kind of marketing and promotion. Now, it doesn't mean it has to cost you a lot of money, but you need to do something. Now, the great thing is some of the things that you can do are absolutely free. You tell people about it in social media. The best thing you can do is actually tell people while you're creating your book, like build that buzz ahead of time. So that way, once your book launches, people already have a vested interest. They're already interested in your book, and you can get those sales right out of the gate. Another thing that you can do is, again, share in social media once your book launches. You can put a link to your book or your Amazon Author Central page in your email signature. Also, if you have a newsletter, obviously you want to share your journey and the launch of your book with those people as well. And again, these are all free ways that you can get the buzz going about your books. And don't forget to do this even after your book's out there. You know, so many times people will publish their book and then after like a month or two, they just move on to the next one and they don't continue to promote their book. And what will happen is you'll see that if you do that, your sales will start to die off. So you want to make sure that Amazon knows that your book is hot and that people are still interested in it. So make sure that you share and promote your book ongoing. People also tend to forget to promote their book within their other books. So at the back of your book, and you'll see this in a lot of traditionally published books, is that they'll have a back page where they share all the other books either in that series or in that genre by that author. So don't forget to promote your books. Again, when they first launch, before they even launch, share about your process. And even after your book is out there, make sure that you continuously promote your book. Reason number two, why people may not be finding your book, therefore you're not getting sales, is you're not in a hungry niche. People aren't interested in that niche. You know, a lot of times this happens when people are writing based on their passion, which is great, but they're writing based on something that they want to read or something that they want to create, which is absolutely fine, but you need to know what the interest is in by other people, so that way you can set realistic expectations on what kind of sales you're going to see. Publish a book that you absolutely like. The book's in your head and you absolutely have to write it. Great, but if you go online and you search up that niche, you search up those keywords and things like that, and there's not a lot of search. The books that do show up, you look at their BSR, their bestseller rank on Amazon, and they're in the millions. Well, then that tells you that there's not really a hungry audience for it. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to set realistic expectations on what kind of sales you're going to get from that. If there's not a lot of people searching for it, then chances are there's not a lot of people that are going to buy it. Reason number three, why people may not find your book and therefore aren't buying it, is the exact opposite of what we just talked about, which is you're in a very competitive market. So if you're doing the publish and pray method, like we talked about number one, and you're in a super competitive market where you do a search and there's thousands of books there, and the BSRs are in like, you know, the simple thousands or maybe even less than that. Maybe they're, you know, in the hundreds. And that tells you that the audience is super hungry for it. That's why the rankings are so good. But if there's tens of thousands in there, well, then that tells you that there's a lot of competition. And so one reason why you may not be getting enough sales is because people can't find your book because it's just being buried. It's being buried by the other books that are out there. If you're in a niche like that, then chances are you are going to have to do some kind of promotions that'll probably cost you money, like running Amazon ads and other ads, Facebook ads, Pinterest ads, whatever, depending on your niche. But Amazon ads are, in my opinion, the best because the audience that's there, the audience that's on Amazon, are what we call a warm audience, meaning they already have their wallets out. They're already ready to buy. That's why they're on Amazon. So if they're already there to buy, you only need to convince them to buy your book, rather than when you're doing social media ads. Then it's a little bit harder because they're not on social media per se to actually do buying. So you have to convince them to buy something and then convince them to buy your book. So that's what we call a cold audience. So again, the third reason why people may not be buying your book is because they don't see it, because you're in a super competitive niche. So either, like I said, run Amazon ads to it or other ads, do something that makes your book stand out more, or consider creating other books in a similar but not as competitive niche. Reason number 4 why you may not be getting book sales or as many book sales as you want because people aren't finding your books is poor keyword research. It still blows me away to this day the number of people that hear the word keyword and they literally, in their 7 keyword slots, they just put one word or 2 words. Keywords should be rephrased to a keyword phrase, what we call long tail keywords. So you have multiple keywords and they're all related, but they also you can combine them together to make something longer that fills in the spot. You don't have to fill in all the characters, but again, you want to make sure that you're putting keywords and phrases together that people are actually searching for. Now, you can go out and buy things like Publisher Rocket, which I use, but you can do this just by using Amazon itself, going in incognito mode or private mode. I have videos that show you how to do that, where you go in and you don't have your own search bias on Amazon, and you can see what people are actually typing, see what people are actually searching for. The higher they are in the dropdown, the more frequently it's searched. So you want to make sure that you're using keyword phrases, not keywords, but keyword phrases that people are actually searching for. Now, in addition to that, another thing is you might be saying, Keith, I use long tail keywords. But a reason why people may not be able to find your book is you're using keyword phrases that are highly searched, but they're not relevant to your book. And relevancy is the number one thing that the Amazon algorithm is looking for to show the browsing customer what they think they want to buy. So if what they type in might be highly searched, but if it's not relevant to your book, then the algorithm knows that that's not going to likely turn into a sale. So you're going to show up for it, but you'll show up on page 100 instead of showing up on the top of page 1. So you need to make sure that you use long tail keywords that people are searching for, but also that you're using words and keyword phrases that are relevant to your book. Now, the 5th reason why your book might not be getting a lot of sales because people just can't find your book is your book might be in a ghost category or a duplicate category. Now, I've covered this in other videos, and I'll link one above and as well as at the end of this video, but a ghost category is a category that is selectable on Amazon KDP, but it's actually not visible anymore on the Amazon Marketplace. And on Amazon KDP, you're allowed to select 3 different categories. But if those 3 categories, if some of those are in ghost categories, which means your audience can't actually find your book if they're searching for that category, well, then you've just wasted a category on something that they're never going to find it. I mean, they can still find your book through keywords, but if they're searching by category, that category doesn't exist, so no one will ever be able to find it. Also, you might have a duplicate category, which means you got your book in 2 categories that end up linking to the same one category on Amazon. So you've wasted, again, another space. You can only select 3 categories and you've wasted them on duplicate categories. Now, again, I've got another video on that. That's something that you can use something like Publisher Rocket to find, but you can also find how to do it manually. And again, I show you that in the video. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy anything, but you definitely need to make sure that the categories that you're selecting are ones that, 1, are actually going to be something that the browsing customer can find, and 2, make sure that you're not wasting one of those 3 categories that you have on something that's going to link to something that you've already selected. So now that we've determined what some of the issues are why people might not be able to find your book and therefore you're not getting sales, what happens when people actually find your book? Your book actually does show up on ranking, or it does show up when they're going through the categories. Why are you still not selling enough books? Reason number 6 is you have a poor cover design. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't spend a lot of money on it, but there are a couple reasons why your book cover might be deterring people from buying it, or they just don't see it because it looks kind of plain. So some of the reasons why your book cover might not be working is, one, it looks like it was homemade. Now, whether you made it homemade or you paid somebody to do it, doesn't matter. If it doesn't stand out, then people are just going to scroll on by it and find something that does pop. Unfortunately, when it comes to books, people do judge a book by its cover. And the first thing is they need to see it. And so if it just blends into the background, or it looks like it was homemade or whatever, if it looks like it's poor quality, then they're going to assume the book is the same. And so I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money on book covers. I spend anywhere between $10 and $30 per book cover that I get done, but it doesn't matter. You need to make sure that your book cover pops. Similarly, about the book covers is it needs to make sure that it fits the genre. So it doesn't matter how much you spent on it or how great it looks. If it doesn't fit in the genre, if it doesn't have some of the tropes that are common within the other book covers in that genre, then it's going to look odd. They're not going to be interested in it. So for example, if you're doing military science fiction, well, then you need to make sure that there's some kind of like battle scene on the cover, or, a space marine or space, destroyers or something that's going to tell them on the cover what your book is about, and something that fits in that genre. Similarly, like I was saying before, not only does it have to fit the niche and fit the genre, but it also has to stand out. It needs to be something that pops, whether it's with color or images or something that makes it pop off. Because when people are scrolling, usually on their phone nowadays, we have a very short attention span. And so if you don't stop that scroll, as we call it, then chances are they're just going to keep on scrolling until they find one that does. So again, these are all reasons why your book cover might not be stopping that scroll and might not be getting you a sale. The seventh reason why your book might not be selling is your title. So many times I see people, especially indie authors, where they write their book title for the Amazon algorithm. Now, I understand that, yes, when it comes to keywords, that your title absolutely has the most leverage. And yes, relevancy matters, but you got to remember that the person buying your book is a human being. And so if you write your title for the algorithm and you're throwing keywords in there, even if they're relevant, if you're throwing keywords in there and it just looks keyword stuffed, it's going to look odd to an actual human being that wants to buy your book. And so you need to make sure that when it comes to your titles, that you write it for the person that the book is for, something that they're going to grasp to, something that they're going to be interested in. Does that title entice them? You can use other things like the 7 keyword slots and everywhere else for the keywords that again are relevant. But the best way to show relevancy to the Amazon algorithm is to get a sale. So if you keyword stuff that title, you might be getting ranked early on very well for the algorithm because, again, it's relevant. But when that relevancy doesn't turn into an actual sale, you're very quickly going to go from the top of page 1 to the bottom of page 100. The 8th reason why you might not be selling enough books or selling any books is poor pricing strategy. Now, poor pricing strategy can mean anything from your book is priced too high. Maybe your book is priced too low. When you put your book at the rock bottom prices, people have a tendency to think that means it's poor quality. Even if it's exact same quality as the book that's priced $1 higher, because it looks low, because it looks like it's rock bottom, chances are people are going to be deterred by that because they're not necessarily in there to get the greatest deal. They're in there to find a book. And if they look at that book and all the other books are priced at $9.99 and yours is priced at $7.99, they're going to think something's wrong. And there's a much better chance that they're not going to buy your book. And similarly, when it comes to pricing, is if the price is just odd. Now, a few years ago, KDP had to raise their prices on what it costs to print a print book. And if you had things already published, you could either go in and adjust the prices yourself, or you could just leave them as is. And what happened is a lot of books were put at just odd prices. So normally maybe the book was at $9.99 and now it's up to $10.17. Well, $10.17 just looks like an odd number, and human nature in the human brain, more times than not, it's just going to feel kind of odd and not feel right. and people are just going to scroll by it. So you want to make sure that your book prices end in something that feels normal, that feels something that you would see at a store, whether it's a book or just any kind of product. So things that end in either 50 cents, things that end in 95 cents, 97, 98, 99, things like that. If I had my book at $10.99, there's a much better chance I'm going to get a sale than if I had it actually cheaper at like $10.17. So again, you want to make sure that your pricing strategy makes sense. And the best way to find the right price for your book is look at your competition. See what the books that are in your niche that are selling. Again, look at the BSR, the bestseller rank, and see the ones that are actually getting good BSRs. So anything below 100,000 means they're selling at least one a day. And so what are their prices? You know, what's their page count to price ratio? Obviously, if they have a book that's 200 pages, it's going to be more expensive than your book that's only 100 pages. So again, look at what's comparable to what you're putting out and see what the average is. And then make sure that your book is somewhere in the middle. You don't want to be the highest, but you don't want to be the lowest either. Now, once you start getting sales or start getting more sales and the kind of sales that you want to get, then we can talk about upping the price. And I can do a whole nother video on that, on when to raise your prices and how much to raise them and things like that. If you're interested in a video like that, let me know down in the comments. But for now, you want to make sure that your book pricing ends like it should. So again, 49 cents, 50 cents, 95, 97, 98, 99, something along those lines. Something that looks normal, something that looks like something you would see in a store. The ninth reason why your book might not be getting any sales, even when people actually find your book, they found your book, it stopped the scroll, the pricing looks good, the title's good, they're enticed. So why are they not buying it? Chances are you got a crappy book description. This happens a lot, especially when people are running Amazon ads. They're like, I'm getting clicks, but I'm not getting any sales. The reason why is that your book description is not what it needs to be. There's this misconception that your book description is the same thing as the back of the book blurb, where, you tell a little bit about your story. It's not. Years ago with traditional publishing, yeah, that's what they did. But if you want, as a self-published author, as an indie author, you want to sell your books, you need to make your book description act like a sales page, because that's what it is. It is your last chance to get that sale. Your last chance to get that person who's a browsing customer of Amazon's to click that buy now button, not add to cart. You want to buy now. And the best way to do that is to treat that not as a book blurb. Do that on the back cover of your book. On your Amazon sales page is just that. That book description is your chance to sell that book. What that means is that every line in that book description has one of two jobs. It is to intrigue them to read the next line, get them to keep reading, or ideally entice them to click that buy now button. That's it. That's its job. Its job is to sell your book. So it doesn't need to be super lengthy. You don't want to do any of that. You want it to be short, sweet, and to the point, however long it has to be to convince them that this is the book for them. You want them, when they're reading those lines, to be like, yeah, that's right, that's what I want. And then finally, they have to click buy now. And that means, and I've covered this in other videos, is you want that very first line to be bold, a little bit bigger than the rest, maybe a header size, and you want it to be about 8 words or less. Something really punchy that gets their attention right off the bat. Then the next lines are going to be, again, talking about why they want your book. And this goes for fiction or nonfiction. Obviously, with nonfiction, you can write, exactly like pain points, why they want to buy your book. But even with fiction, you can talk about your story. You can talk about your characters. But again, it's just to get them to say, yes, I want to read this. Yes, I want to read that. Not, telling them backstories and all that other garbage. That's what the story's for. That's what the book is for. Your job on that sales page is to get them to click buy now. And then the very last thing you want on that book description is, again, header size, the same size as that very first sentence, again, bold, and it's a call to action, or we call a CTA, a call to action. You want to say something like, click buy now today. You can add some words before that, again, to entice them, depending on what the book is about, join the adventure, buy today, something along those lines. I prefer to say, click buy now today. And I usually will underline the word today. And I use the word buy now because that's exactly what that button says. So again, you want to tell them exactly what you want them to do. Click buy now when? Today. Don't put it in the cart, because then they'll forget about it. Click buy now today. Again, your book description is the last chance that you have to make a sale. And that's a really good reason why your book might not be selling. And the 10th reason why your book might not be getting sales is you don't have A+ content. If A+ content is available in your country, then you absolutely need A+ content on whatever type of book you put out. Back when A+ content came out a couple years ago, it was one of those things where it was like, if I put A+ content on my book, it made it stand out. It made it different. It was an advantage. At this point, A+ content has been around for long enough that so many, not only indie publishers, but traditional publishers are creating that kind of content that instead of it being an added bonus to have A+ content, it's actually a deterrent if you don't have it. So instead of it being a bonus to have it, now if you don't have it, your book sales page just looks odd. It doesn't look as enticing. And with so many people buying and scrolling on their smartphones, that one of the very first things they see is the from the publisher content, which is just Amazon's way of saying A+ content. And so if they don't see that, then it just looks odd. It looks like something's missing at that point. So many times I hear people say, I have no control over the look inside feature, what they see, how much they see, or any of that other stuff. But you do, because A+ content allows you to not only share more images or more information about your book, but you get to choose what you're sharing. It's not just like the first 10% or whatever. You can share images, even if it's a written content book, and it's not a picture book or anything like that. There's so many different ways to easily, whether you're using Canva or BookBrush or whatever you want, to create images of someone reading the book by the poolside. And you want the browsing customer to see that and be like, imagine themselves doing that. Imagine themselves relaxing, reading this book at the beach, at the pool, in a cafe or whatever. You don't have to put 5 modules like the max is. Just putting in 1 or 2 or 3 can absolutely make a huge difference when it comes to getting your book more sales. And if you have your book in a series, then using the comparison chart as one of the modules, to me, is a must-have, because it allows you to not only share the differences and similarities between the books in the series, but also each of the books that you link are not only clickable, but they can actually buy the book right then and there from that page without even having to leave it, without even having to go to, click another link and go to another book page. No, they can do it all right there within that comparison chart. So again, if all the other things I talked about, if all the other 9 things are something that you've checked off, yes, that's done. I've got a great book description. My keywords are on point. Everything's relevant. My pricing looks good. My book description is getting them to do what it needs to do, and not too much. And then it gets them to click buy now. If you don't have A+ content, that might be that one missing piece that is keeping you from getting more book sales. Now, if you learned something from this video, I'm not done yet. Don't go anywhere. I did promise you one bonus, didn't I? But if you've liked the 10 that I've given you so far, make sure that you hit that thumbs up button. It lets YouTube know to share this video with other people. Also, if you find this helpful, share the video yourself with someone you think would enjoy it as well. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? It's free and all the cool kids are doing it. Now, I did promise you a bonus. So here is the bonus tip. There is one area that I hear so many authors say, I'm not getting more sales. I'm not getting any sales because of this. And I'm telling you, it's important, but it's probably not the reason you're not getting book sales. And that is book reviews. Book reviews are important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, even Amazon suggests that you don't even run Amazon ads until you have at least 15 reviews for your particular product, in this case, books. But book reviews aren't going to be, in most cases, what deters somebody from buying your book. Either they can't find your book because of the first 5 reasons that we talked about, or they found your book and it's just one of the other things that we talked about. One of the other 5 things is deterring them from buying it. The lack of reviews is 9 times out of 10 not going to be the reason. My full-time job for the last 25 years has been in market research, so I've done plenty of research on this. So I'm saying this with a bit of authority that it's not the main reason why people aren't buying books. If there's 2 books there and one's got less reviews than the other, then yeah, that's probably not going to be the reason why they don't buy it. It's not the volume of reviews. It is the value of the reviews. So if I have 2 reviews on my book and I have an overall 4.8 rating and somebody else has 1,000 reviews and their average is 4 points, they're probably going to go with the higher average, which is mine, regardless of the volume of reviews that are there. I am actually testing out a review platform that I'll be doing a video for in the very near future. So again, if you aren't subscribed, you definitely want to subscribe so you can catch that one. But book reviews, when it comes to the number of reviews you have, are most likely not the reason why people are not buying your book. It's one of the other 10 reasons that I gave earlier. Because like I said, Amazon's algorithm's #1 priority is relevancy. And the most relevant thing a book can have is a review. Because think about it. They buy it, then they come back and review it, then it's absolutely more relevant than the other books it's competing against for that keyword phrase. So again, relevancy is #1. Book reviews that are gotten organically from your target audience are going to be way more relevant in the algorithm than how many you have. So making sure that you get the other 10 things that I talked about on point, and you have a much better chance of getting more sales, which will lead to more organic reviews. Now, a little bit earlier, I talked about ghost categories and duplicate categories. I have an entire video right here where I talk about it, and I do talk about Publisher Rocket, but I also show you how you can find them on your own using Amazon itself. So you don't have to make any purchases to check out that video. If you've already seen that, well, then YouTube says that this video right here is perfect for you. So I'll catch you inside one of these videos, and remember to write right.